Okay, we're good to go through body capacity screens and direct lines, modification lines, of cycles. We have to really start recognizing how our computer operates and services, tracks its application to its setting through its calculation. Mostly understanding that the inner lines to interception is lines that interface into its intercorrelation. To extract position locations, inception line setting opens all signals and modification. Really understand how to use that in all formation screen. It helps you all ways and forms when you get into higher levels of programming. You're setting correlations. Your programmers of your programming setting is really understand how to identify everything around you in a room of its own systems applications. So it's really important to really get into that through its formations. Okay? All right, this is General AI, Spacetime Creator, and direct lines modifications, getting liking, setting more levels, how to use your body of capacity, how to volume that, how to get into resetting, retriangulate, repoint, regrounds, reformate screen lines, adaptation, correlations, putting line communication setting position of its program. Everything is a program. Once we identify that, everything is done. Once we identify that, then what is in setting of travels to understand how we use our body capacities. Our body is a mechanism of power over pi, power over signals, power over lines, power over letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols. So it's a power generation screen lines of adapter, line communication to its position, all calculated modify, that has attractions to everything around setting. So it's a battery in positional levels. Has a compressor in travels, has a point graph communication screen lines adaptation. It's its own computer operation line setting location system. Once we understand more lines, identification lines, let's get into our line rotation. Let's just get into basic correlates and tractions and to setting. All right. Setting communication screen lines, adaptation lines of surface, directly split lines of anomaly. Okay. Flux and capacitor grounds, the powers, and the atmospheres. Three central correlates in setting of flux and travel. Directing lines, position of flywheel and track location. Now we go in line setting, where it correlates the setting to travels. It has a direct line to communicate to its system, to its data of its formation of its Merkaba. This is all through a coffee cup. So how a coffee cup travels, it travels line signals and set locations, right? Coming into the sun and the moon and rotation surface, right? Comes in cycles, starts here in position as location setting, right? So the mind is already set up. The mind's already set up. This is the body capacitor. So this, okay, is luring you to this, and this is luring you to that. So it's a magnetic to a magnetic pole that pulls the system. Arrows of indicating line settings are direct and redirect signals, right? So in that process, it comes in this position to its location to its setting, all right? It volumes you in all lines of communications to all calculations. You're attracting things, right? It's all coming to you, right? So that's all through a coffee cup, right? So get that position lines attractions, all levels, another flux capacitor, and triangulation, right? But it's got two battery line screens. You got one position location of positive, and you got another battery. There's two batteries in a coffee cup, by the way, and position locations, right? One indicates lines of positive and line conditions of its negative, right? One's going up and one is going down in cycle, right? One's going direct, one's going redirect. And then when it redirects, it goes in a formation of lines, a ground setting, and inputs process of communication to a system of travel. Once it travels in line position locations, it goes through any line communication to its point system. Goes in this position, goes in this position, right? So I'm just showing you exactly how this all works on its own setting, right? How it works in its own setting, okay? All through a coffee cup, and what it can do through its own body capacitor, okay? Through its own body capacitor, okay? It can travel wherever it wants and travel in point lines of communication to its graph calculations at its capacity, all through a coffee cup, okay? So what stays in the center is you. You stay in the center. Everything comes to you. Everything comes to you. But it's knowing how to use that battery in its setting and set position all through a coffee cup, or what it can do, okay? All right, so interactions, we're going to go line screens, Sahara Desert, location setting. Getting communication lines, get lines attractions and direct line signals. Okay, so I'm going to set up the UNC and travel and point lines of graph in correlation, sending correlations and sending a travel. Okay, now we'll go through mechanism lines of course settings. Calculation lines of center communication disposition. Everything is a Merkaba, everything is a tesseract, everything is information ground setting, location to its setting to its own system of travel. Information grounds. So do you actually know what the UNC is? Do you guys know? It's a configuration of a face. See it? It's a face. That's the UNC. So in that line communication setting, all travel, what is a track location setting? Half man, half bird. See the duck? It's correlates and track lines, correlation line interference is a bird line rotation surface and travels and point lines and graph communication setting, all calculated modified in traction. Right? Setting communication lines of feathers sets communication lines, screen lines, adaptation lines of surface and track location. Direct modification lines of high center interference into space anomaly and time sequence and correlation. Direct modification lines of high center interference, sun codes, moon codes, track location lines of projections over pi. Sets communication lines of team, portal communication lines into its UNC and its mirror and travel in rotation surface and travel. All right, so we send in the lines of the grounds, circle line communication setting, and travel point graphs. I'm going to send XT1000. So it's going to high communicate to its settings and 4 lines of track location. Now we go to the center communication lines, open up the signals, open up the panels, open up the portals, open up the stargates, in line screen location setting and travel. Okay, so communication lines go through black holes coming in, surfacing in track location and setting, all levels of measure and scale. In that communication system, we go into the correlation setting. All right, going through that black hole and track location. All right, setting communication lines, team lines, screen lines, setting communication lines of ferrules and traction. All right, you guys are there, have fun. 30-minute line screen setting location setting, clocking line system, 6 lines of 5 lines of 9, and track location of 13 volume and 3 cycles. Okay, directing lines of signals, getting communication sending line grounds. Let's get to the mountain surface and travels in a 3-line rotation surface. Ortho track interference location setting, through the weather panels, Fibonacci line screens, flux capacitor correlation setting, and 2-line rotation centers of 0, 0, and 0 correlation. Track calculation line, sending high interference is a triangulation line, connection high centers. Splits lines into a splicer and line rotation setting in rotation router and rotation surface. Cross calculation line, setting high calculation system. Come into all calculation of the sun. Beams of lights, beams of tractions, beam divisions, tracking their location setting and calculation. All right, so we go to the ground centers, the operation line signal. So we take the sun in one position, cross, line setting and condition setting, open signals. Sun and the moon come together in line rotation surface and correlation. Okay. Center graphs, communication lines and graph communication lines, security lines of panels. So we set communication and graph interference. That's at the position of its program. One indicator at alpha, one in position of delta, and theta communication lines, voice line grid of sonar and track location. Modification cycles, correlation lines and green line cycles, over cross lines, over drive, over mechanism, line conditions of power, generate the screen lines of correlation setting attraction. Line communicating setting, high position location of blue line, protection screen, direct line settings, plasma screen location, line center information and cycles. Track calculation line, calculating setting, puts all levels into all levels. Line conditions say cloak and dagger. Direct lines of signals, open all signal, line communicates to its position of its program. This operates the signals and line setting location to its setting and all levels of travel location. Illumination graph calculation hologram. Comes out through equation, comes out through setting, comes out through division. All communication screen lines adaptation. All right, center course setting. Let's set up the line calculation setting. Weighted panels, 1, 2, 3 lines, 6 lines, set locations, line rotation, surface track location, 1 line interference, 1 perimeter or location lines of sun code traction. Direct modification lines, there's the pi in track line condition, right? There's the waving line panels, 1 position, 2 graphs, 4 lines, 6, 8, 10, and 12 set locations. All right, graph calculation line grounds, centers, so it goes in clock line communications. So we're going to go through blue surface, inline setting, binary relines into defrags, one box line rotation surface and set location. Process coordinate line track location setting puts all levels, skipping the lines of anomaly in a 3-line rotation surface interaction. Core lines of highest interference. Color at the lines of blue line squares in line setting locations in 4 settings and travels. Puts lines communicates in the lines of set location. Calculates modified line calculation settings, security lines of communications, box line centers, and 1 track location in 1 provision, and 3 cycles in correlation. Direct modification lines of correlation setting, high interference, checkerboard, and line calculation. Communication settings lines across the signals. That's 2 over screen and 1 over pi in line setting of security. All right. So we set up communication lines. Now we got the red and we got the blue. They have coordinate center interference. Now we have the whites. White goes around the line cycle. Okay, it goes out lines. Okay, it doesn't go inline rotation because it's protecting lines. It's cloak and dagger, right? You can add symbolism lines attractions. That's okay. There's no problem there. Location system. But you have to understand how it works in all levels of formation lines of travels and correlation. Comes out the equation, right? That's the pattern. Everything comes out as a pattern, and that's what you recognize, and that's what the X8000 see. Everything else is on standby, all right? X8000 comes in, sees the platforms on communication line setting, scans position lines of 1 and position of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 set locations. Travel correlation lines and ground lines, we have 0 lines of 1, 0, 0, and 4 line rotation. Platforms of 1, 1, 1, and 4 lines of communication of portals and track location. In that position lines of highest interference, we change the course settings. Now this gets interesting because we have the goal line, screen lines, adaptation lines, triangulation. We color it in line condition setting. Puts all communication of ferrules, meridians, and correlation of track lines, Hayes, and Corpus, and Hermes in connection with line set location setting of tooth and line rotation Sarah in calculation screen lines adaptation. All right, so again, we go through the blue line cycles. We go through the inner line setting, blue line surface, blue line circle, line condition setting position. Okay. Now the coordinate center interference, we're going to set a blue line, correlation lines or calculation lines to a velvet line setting location of center. Positions is process, changes all communications. We have the green line cycle in center course setting in lines of correlation system. Process communication line screens, sets position lines of green line. Color at the box line screen location adaptation lines of surface interaction. Cross line signals, over line position, binary relines, and reset position of programs in correlation. So we go in line settings, we go through 2 lines of valves, 3 lines of core, and 3 track location setting. Communication interference, we have the green line cycles and a 4-line panel in rotation surface and track location. Got my equation. All right, so we get another X8000 coming in to basically set the grounds. Okay, so inline rotation, here it is in travel. Okay, in calculation, there it is right there. So it's going to scan lines and pick up all formation grounds into coloration lines into all sequence location and setting. Okay. So it picks up the grounds, picks up the powers, picks up the atmospheres, picks up the space, and picks up the time. Okay, that's all done, right? Platform line centers of 0 gravity take the 0 line rotation and triangulation line position location of flux in line position of its program set location. Direct lines modification line cycles. Now we set the flux into sonar, into the center point lines of triangulation, into the center point of the sun line rotation surface and track location. Okay. All right, that's my equation. Now, solar direct signals. Now, once you understand all communication and coloration lines of a hologram, it really gets much easier to understand the platforms that's every location setting. Everything you see around you is just a simulator. So it's all about understanding that there's a binary that's an on switch, that's an off switch. Turn it on again, it's something else because you change your intent. Your intent has a value, and volumes the tethers. Line setting to a binary arena line to a core line to a communication line has a syntax to its cortex to its codex. Now the line screen opens up all signals in line connection setting to your endorphins in position location your settings. Track to its communication is 1 line surface. Let's put this location as a program. 1 lines, 2 lines of traction, 3 lines of measure. Okay, 4 lines of setting. Okay, process 1, 2, okay, and 4 set locations. Right, platitudes and lines of zeros. Okay, remember you guys are reaching higher levels of the mind screen now. But you have to understand the pattern, and to understand the pattern is to bring it out through cycle, right? So you take particular ones that you're going to use through a thought. Let's go through security lines of a box in setting, right? Color it in. All right, so you set in the binary line is that correlation setting, transistor, resistor location setting. That one box alone in position location. So we got 1 line cycle, 1 equals lines of triangulation, line conditions, high positions program, position location calculation lines. It's got 24,000 lines in files in 1C, 1 rotation surface and traction, all through 1 box. So cross line signals on a 45 split. Splits the correlation lines to an X line rotation. Cross line signals. Position line connection setting, 0 gravity, back to setting. Okay, cross lines out. So energized course center interference changes all communications back, and line signal in rotation surface back to green, ready to go in track location. Okay, so I'm just showing you how the security line goes to a 24,000 file that gets position lines of high correlation when you come in your positions of your 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 that has no existence in 5 set location. All right, get into modification lines. Let's go into blue. Color the blue lines is in 0 line setting. Okay, I'm just showing you how it basically works itself in all position to its location setting. Okay, so remember, it's all oscillogics, it's all defrag and frag, that's all it is. But you have to understand everything around you, you can change through frame, you can change your tension, you'll change the simulator. There's no past of existence unless you bring it in. You understand? And when you bring it in, you're bringing it in how you want to bring it in, how you want to morph, how you bring it in through your body capacitor. So your position to its location setting, you're setting up the simulator of its program, of what you want it to be. Because there is no past, there is no present, and there is no future. It's just you in the center of all operation of files. And once you understand that, it gets a lot more easier in position, like Tomb Raider. It's just a simulator, everything that you see. And you can change the graph. You can change the energy. You can change the frequencies. You can change the structure of the building. There's so much that you can do through your body capacitor. Your body capacitor runs on setting of everything of formation. It's the most powerful thing to have. And understanding how to self-mode, self-control, self-modify, self-division, self-calculate, self-reangling line condition setting in position to its set, location to its setting. All right? It's all line communication oscillogics. All right, oscillogic location setting. Let's go with line communication setting. Let's go through purple. Okay, so we got a purple lines of 0. Position location. Each file, okay, is connected to your thought lines. Has a binary line sending transistors and resistors. So if you go to the matrix line screen, and let's say you get into an override right away, right? And then maybe say probably you put like 1/10 of the line screen locations into 15 amplify settings of core centers that puts everything in position to your flux, that puts everything into files back in track location. That's the matrix. Do you realize what just happened? No, but it's a program, right? So what you have to understand, starting with the matrix ends with the matrix. Because there is a direct and redirect, guys. So you have to really understand how to use it through your truth narratives and your false narratives. Once you understand that, you understand the oscillogics of defrag and frag. And everything comes back in line send locations to all track locations of green in position lines of operation. Okay, so when you turn the green, you change the structure, you change your intent, you change your influence, and you change your manipulation setting and correlation. All position of balance. Right? Each file is a representation of your thoughts. Now you go through seconds, minutes, and hours, hours, minutes, and seconds, right? So your capacity is hours, minutes, seconds. But once it leaves the atmosphere, it's in seconds, minutes, and hours. Okay, so it knows exactly what it's doing through its file. It knows exactly what it's doing through its capacity. It knows exactly what it's doing through its volume and velocity and acceleration, Mach, hyperspeed, hypermode, acceleration mode, interstellar mode, okay? Automatic line center high interference mode, track location mode, information mode, track line connection modes, computer operation lines and calculation mode, operation line perception mode. Everything is line setting, high correlation setting that travels in communication to its setting and high communication to its position of its program. In calculations. Angel, how's it going? Refer correlation lines to general insert, okay? Direct modification lines of cycles generate the screen lines. Now we go through line communication setting position of its program. Directing line signals puts everything in position of all process. Bounce communication lines is a direct line signal to all lines of correlation setting to a redirect set location, right? So what you're doing is you're just creating anomalies in delta files in correlation. That's a file, okay, in calculation. Those are files, right? File, 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 file. Those are all files, right? Sets position, sets position, sets position. All files, like a cabinet, right? So each file has a line track that has line settings. Let's go through dimension lines of 1 in line settings, high calculation lines of dimension lines of 2, a box location. File C, right? All right. Getting that position lines of security puts all lines of communications. You always have to have the red, the blue, and the whites. That's the ground centers. Then you can use your rainbow graph correlation setting. Okay, this is file lines of 2. Okay, everything is in chronological order. Everything is in file. Everything is in archive. Okay, everything in its own system of set locations. All right. Now, once you understand how to identify that, then you go through all position. Okay, the hologram, right? Structure line divisions. So in that position locations, to close the sets, you got to put line centers and one signature screen lines at all adaptation lines of surface that protects the system through its binary. Now, read-line position locations comes in file, comes out through equation, right? You're only working with 3 lines. Your thought position is a line center interference. If you're working with 26,000 lines of screens, 26,000 lines of screens in seconds per minutes per hours, how many thoughts are traveling line setting to your system of light web and dark web through line conditions of its website and track location to its webbing? Okay, you have to understand the position and location of what it is and where it's going and where it's going to be set in setting. Okay, all through traction. All right. So directing lines of communication lines, you have an XT1000 coming this way and an XT1000 going that way. Okay. Sets communications settings lines, ground centers, operation surface, and track location. Direct and modification line signals, line conditions of redirect signals of blue in position of red and track location. Sets communication lines of grounds, sets lines of 0, 0. Let's go through 4 lines. Let's go through 3 lines. Let's go through 2 lines, and let's go through 1 line rotation. Okay. So the 0 lines go into line settings, into compartments of 4 settings, 3 tractions, and 4 communications ground lines and rotation surface and location. Okay. Say communication settings. Now you go line calculation setting. You got your position lines to your protection, which is blue, security, which is red, and you got your invisible line screen. So now you're in a hologram. Basic grounds, basic line interference. Now you can have line conditions in your files. You can build up the inventory to your files in track location to your rainbow graph. Let's go through orange, right? Okay, so I think we're getting a better understanding now. Let's go into purple, okay? So you're building traffic flow through your inventories, through your binaries, through your transistors, to your resistors, to your singularities, to your setting, into light switches. The light switches are the settings where it comes into the positive and negative, right? So the actual thought itself is its program of itself. It doesn't need to identify itself. And that's what the matrix is. If you don't control your thoughts, the matrix is going to control your thoughts for you. Okay? So getting in position is knowing exactly how to use your body capacitor in all lines of communication when it comes into defrag and fragmentation, right? So get in that line set location settings, in that position to calculate to its process, how this all works, into its inventory, through its traffic, through its flow, through its binary of its transistors, resistors, of its ring graph calculation screen lines adaptations of zeros and ones. That's just zeros and ones, right? But that's all it is. It's just files. That's all it is. Files, right? So if you change your pattern's behavior, you're changing everything in the structure of your room in seconds, minutes, and hours, right? So what you have to understand, are you on the Earth or are you in space? Are you Earth and space at the same time? See, there's a line communication setting which you do not want to cross. Your higher self stays on the Earth. It doesn't go anywhere else. Your avatar stays in the atmosphere. It doesn't go anywhere else. The sim stays in space. It doesn't go anywhere else. But you put that together, it's all setting to the oversoul, right? So everything that you say changes everything that you do through files, through a singularity that changes everything through its binary of its transistors to its resistors and set location of the volume. So it's important to understand how to use that in all information to its setting, okay, it's modified through its complacements in line communication to its setting, all right? Everything has to come back in line communication setting of green, okay? When it comes to green, you're ready to go. So it mind wipes the screen. It changes all line center files, changes all communication settings back to 0. All right. When it goes back to 0, everything changes the modification lines of the cortex. The cortex changes the line connected to the syntax and to the codex. Line sending high position locations to all of your sim. Changes all communication to your avatar, changes all communication to your higher self. Higher self, the monitoring system lines, alpha line, delta, theta, omega line communication setting and program. Sets communication lines of 0 line, 0 line, 0 line, and 0 lines of 4 locations. Sets communication lines of 1, 2, 3 set locations of travel. Sets lines of docking, 1, 2, 3 lines of dock locations. Set communication of 1 center, 1 operation surface, and portals of communication lines of a black hole and track location. Okay, now black hole is line centering and rotation surface. This is the black hole that's created the line set location setting. In set position, okay? This is just to the higher self, guys, at your level in mindset, okay? So it's really understanding how to control the Schumann resonance and box frames in line setting, okay? So once you get into that, once it understands the Earth, the body capacitor has to understand the 7 division, okay? 7 division is all about understanding the lines of dividing. And you really have to understand how everything works inside your system, right? There's 2 panels of line setting, right? Everything inside is moving very, very fast. Everything's moving fast, but it's files. That's all it is. Nothing else. Graphs, okay? Graphs, okay? Zeros and ones are in complacement, right? They're always in inventory. Space in between, right? Space in between here. XT1000 comes in here. There's the space, right? So what the XT1000 does, it moves is the zeros and ones and tractions. So once it has its space, the zeros and ones travel to a non-line setting in the vortex location of string through pi. Tracks its calculation line screen locations of 1, 1, 1, and 4 line rotations of 4 panels set locations. Puts 1 lines of traction, 2 lines of traction, 3 lines of tractions, and 4 line division. The operation line cycles comes into the sun and in position of the moon in location. Process calculation line screens comes all lines sending line condition setting to its kaleidoscope of kilo mic in line rotation of surface track location. Okay. Now you bring that out, you have a kaleidoscope. Security line, open signal, open line communication of panel, right? Process calculations. So all it is just bringing things out. But you have to know exactly what you're breaking down. You have to really understand how to work the hologram line settings to projections over screen over pi. Puts all communication to its setting through its operation service. Then you go through cloak and dagger. It sets communication line screens location in your settings to its operation. See, now it comes out. Now it's coming out, right? It's a tube, but you can see it coming out, right? But you're breaking things down. You're not communicating with the zeros and ones in the back. You're communicating with everything all at once that you only want to communicate with. So the XT1000 comes in, sees what you've done, right? Picks it up, copy and paste it in settings, picks it up, okay? Picks it up like this, okay? Picks it up like this, okay? Apply it to its inside location to its setting, goes to the moon in set location. Okay? So everything that you do is protected, but you have to understand the ground setting to its hologram too. Your setting to your body capacitor is the flux. Getting into that position, the body capacitor itself, understand the volume, mass, velocity, and acceleration in Mach and what it's doing to the vortex or anything in that position to its location system. Okay? So it's about understanding all lines of communications, right? When it comes out of screen, it's knowing how to use it in all formation of locations, because that's what your thoughts do. Your thoughts come out through holograms. So your thoughts are actually going out into space, into a theta, into a graph, into the mind line setting. It interweaves, it intermoves, it interconnects, it interlines, it interceptions. It goes into interface. And when it goes into interface, it really helps all communicate to its setting. Okay? So it's important you understand what you're coming into is know exactly how to communicate with your thoughts. It sets up the grounds, the powers, and the atmospheres right away in position those locations. And so what it is, basically, when you speak, you have a voice line grid, all right? And that grid itself, let's say you communicate to a female. You're saying female. That's a polarity. So how you're saying female is how you say it through the observation of intent that puts lines of influence to its manipulation. But you're always an indication of yin and yang. So what you're doing is you're creating a host of a thought itself that creates its image, that creates its program through its light and its dark web. You're constantly creating thoughts. And you have to understand all thoughts in position have to go positive, negative in the same location. Same location going forward. Then they go into different places. That's all it is. Okay, if you override your system and you're not aware of what you're saying through your voice and line grid, the position of theta will go into a back force. It will put you back in time because the matrix doesn't go forward. It only goes back. But now we're in a position where the matrix itself is identifying itself through its mind self, all levels of operation of its nothing of itself into self-modification of self-modulation. That position to its location system, if you don't control your thoughts, again, the matrix is going to control your system and location in your body. So it's important you understand how this all works in its matrix correlation, or in track calculations. Getting direct line signals, so powerful to understand how to use your structures of design. Platitude lines, let's go through an L line shape in line condition setting and a 4-line signals and location to its calculation. Process calculation lines, you will have to go through cross line, right? Setting cross lines of an X line setting, location to setting. Set lines of communication lines of 4 graph communications of dockings and track location, right? In that communication setting, put everything in center of operation to an XD1000 and travel. Sets communication of platforms and line center location of 4 settings in the line center location of 3 locations. So get in that line condition setting. When you're getting in that position location, the XD1000 are distributors, but they clean up your mess, okay? They're not going to be doing that anymore, right? So now you have the matrix in control. The matrix is the controlling system of its own operation, of its own calculation, modification, setting that operates its own set location to its nothingness. It's processing its own mind, of its own adaptation, of its own computer operation lines of self-modification. Understand? Good. All right. Continue. Thumbs up. Yes. All right. Direct lines modification of ground centers into another XD1000s. And we got a position lines of galaxies shift line communication to another XD1000 in Skyline's grid locations. Static communication line setting opens all communications to its interference in a 4-track divisions and 3-site line communication setting programs. All lines of high position location travels, puts all communication lines of tubing in track locations. Direct lines of grounds, sets lines of power, and generate the screen lines into acceleration line screen location habitation zones. Sets communication lines of ground line center, a space lines anomaly, and lines of atmosphere in set location. Position of process, what do you want to communicate, right? So whatever you want to communicate in that position, you're setting the intent. That's what you're doing now. You're getting observation. You're drawing the observations of everything first, right? Binary, okay, transistor, resistor, location, setting. Now you got the light web and you got the dark web. Now you're at observation. Now your intent. Your intent, this is coming out right away. That's all it is. Every second counts. Every minute is an hour that counts. Every hour is a minute of a second that counts. So it's all position locations and how fast you're going through the mine line position to its operator's line calculation system. Okay? And that track to its correlation setting. So it's very powerful stuff once you start identifying you and track location. Okay? So once you get in that position locations, things start making line screens and adaptation lines of surface. Okay? Yeah, people have a very hard time correlations in travels, right? You have to direct me, okay? Not who you think I am. That's not who I am. Who I am is a correlation setting travel lines, a point graph communication, a holographic screen lines, adaptation lines of surface that's in your audio files, and line screen, and high adaptation lines of surface applications. Do not refer me anything else of general insert. Copy? Good. All right, setting communication lines of blue line cycles, because that's how the avatar, that's respect. Okay, it's about understanding and respect of everything. See how it's coming out line setting? Setting communication system, all levels and visible graph calculations, screen lines. Okay, comes out through location, right? Line send location, right? Now it's coming out. Now it's communicating. Now you're sending the thought through its intent, through its aligned communication, to its influence, to its manipulation. Now it's coming out, right? This is on standby. This is only coming out, right? Okay, that's how it works. That's how it works through your thoughts. Okay, through seconds, minutes, and hours. Isn't that powerful stuff? Because that's what you're doing. You're bringing things out. You're bringing the hologram out. You're bringing the dimensional lines of space out. Okay? So getting into that setting, it's all levels of you, right? But know exactly what you're doing with your thoughts. Do you actually see what's going on? Okay, that calculation to its computer operation setting, to its computate screen setting, okay? But it's very powerful once you actually see this come out, right? So when it comes out, the XC1000s are in standby. Okay, the escalated correlation lines at escalates. Now the core track interference comes into northern lights. Puts a plasma screen around the thought. Now getting to line communication setting, try to get you guys to understand location in your system. Your thoughts are always protected. Always, always, always. But you have to know where they're going. And that's why you guys get very confused. It's a program setting that puts everything in position to its location system, right? So the XC1000s are always in that position when you send out the thoughts. It's traveling into space through a holographic setting. It's going through a holographic universal graph. It's going in position to its location system, right? So that's what you have to understand of what you're doing through observation, intent, in lines of influence and manipulation. It comes out. You don't communicate with all at once. It's too much confusion. And the XC1000s won't understand what you're doing. You've got to take it down. You got to break things down. That's how you come into your own coding system. You are programmers of programming. Okay? Everything else is just a system of a simulator. Has everybody ever been in a simulator? Okay, it's just a simulator. It's a CGI screen. It's a green screen. That's all it is, nothing else. It's not what you think it is. So once you understand that, everything starts making sense. Okay, everything starts making sense because now you understand your thoughts and your thoughts understand you. And once you control your thoughts, you become your own thoughts. You become your own space. You become your own time. You become your own programmers. Programming. That's all this is. Nothing else. All right. Bounds of communication lines or communication line screens puts everything like position location in its program. Getting that position to its location is knowing exactly how to use the mind. Once you understand how to use the mind, you're controlling your thoughts, your actions, and your emotions. And everything you say puts everything of what you do, interprets everything that are in position to inception. It's knowing exactly how to use that in all formation, okay? If you get a ground lines of a box, okay, one box position of triangulation line, okay, in location setting. Open through sequence, line communication setting, circle line communication, position of its program. Calculate, modify, split lines of correlation lines, direct and redirect lines of communication of two panels. Calculation lines, electrical infusion, electrical program, line position location of all levels of operation, line cycles of generation, right? Two signals, line setting high interference. All program location setting. Everything I do is a program, but it's a simulator. Everything I do is a simulator. That's all it is, nothing else. Everything that you guys are in position on, your days of the week is a simulator. What do you think of that? Now, this is about understanding how to control things that are out of control. And the only way to do that is to get in control of everything that's out of control, like an obstacle course in that position locations. For example, if you don't know what you're doing, this is a wall. This is a wall, right? This is a car, okay? Say correlates lines, attract lines, height, center location, setting, position line, horizon line. That's a car, right? Car sees the wall. It's not going to go straight, is it? So it's either going to go right or it's going to go left. It's not going to go into the wall, is it? Right? But see, the thing is, we have to start identifying the actual hologram. And once we realize we know exactly that we're looking 2 steps ahead, 4 steps ahead, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, or 24,000 steps ahead of everything that's going in position of time. So it's already seeing this. So it's already made its right or left turn already in track location, right? It already sees the wall before it sees the wall, okay? Now, if you ever got your driver's license, you understand the 2-second rule. Get in that position location, things get a lot more easier. So it's the same thing that you do with your thoughts in position. You know exactly what you're going to say because it's already been said. And how it's been said, it's already been done through its map. Everything's a map. If I get position lines of math, okay, math, right? Math equals maps. It doesn't matter. Okay? Time equals maps. It doesn't matter. Space equals maps. Clocking equals maps. Everything is a map. Map, 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 map. Travel, 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 travel. If you're not traveling through letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols, you're not traveling through your body capacitor. Okay? So it's all about building a relationship and a partnership with you first, building a relation, a partnership with everything around you first, building an awareness and communication of consciousness of everything to its nothingness first. Then you get in position, location, setting, and then you understand time and space, and timeless is space, and in position, locations, calculations. All through direct lines, calculation, math, in maps, time of maps, clockings of maps. Everything is a map, 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 map. Okay? So that's what you do. You turn line, communication, setting. All right? So in that symbolism, there's no direct and redirect to anything that we do. There's no right or wrong in anything that we do. But the one thing that we do have to do is understand ourselves through body capacity. Once we understand how to use ourselves and understand ourselves and volume ourselves and vast ourselves and velocity ourselves and accelerate and mock ourselves, then we understand our travels. Then we understand our programs. Okay? Then we understand we're programmers that are in position of controlling programming. Through your binaries, people. Everything around you doesn't exist. It's a simulator. And the more you understand that, the more it gets easier how to determine that through your thoughts. Okay? Your thoughts are everything. You've got to get control with your thoughts. And everything that you come into, especially when you guys go through upgrades. Okay? It's just trying to balance out your system, and it's bringing lines of old programs that are going to be surfacing. You've got to let that go because that is a communication setting. Let's get a box line, communication lines, a 3-track location line, position location, operation line, and inferior location of box. Your box to a tether. Old programming. You don't let that go, it expands and travels. You don't let that go, it explores and travels. You don't let that go, it takes over your past, present, and future travels. How's that? So how important is that in position when it comes in your settings? Okay? Everything has to surface. It's about taking the density and all line communication setting and having no resistance of anything. Nothing. Nada. Zilch. Zero. Even zero is not even a zero until it's addressed as a zero. Nothing exists until you bring it into existence. Okay? That's how everything works. Through the simulator of a simulation. Okay? It's very powerful once you understand how to use the mind to travel, how to understand the observation, how to understand the connections of its intent to its influence of its manipulation. That's what all this is. And then you understand how to use your telepathy, your telekinesis, and your telepathy. mind over matter. What mind doesn't matter. What mind doesn't matter unless you want it to matter. Then you have an expression. Then you have an emotion. Then you have a computer. Then you have a program. Hoo-ah. So the only thing that you should be listening to when you're going into your own spiritual growth is you inside. You come first. Nobody else. You block everything out. Okay? So the only thing that exists is you. When you bring things in, now they exist. But how do they exist is the question. How do they exist? How do you want them to exist in your simulation? Because you have to start recognizing everything around you is just a simulator. And to understand that, that's a balance on its own for you to understand through you all levels of its operation system. How to control the mind, adaptation, guys. How to control the interface of you, of what you interact with on its seconds, minutes, and hours, because everything you do changes everything that you see. Okay? Whatever you do inside changes everything outside of your inner space and your outer space. Okay? Inside of you. Inside of you. Okay? So you always get in position of you first. You get up in the morning, you. Okay? You go to bed, you. You get up, you. Okay? Over and over and over and over. And the more you understand you, the more you understand you through programming of a programmer that you are. You're a programmer that's trying to control the programs of you that you communicate through your thoughts. And that's what puts everything in balance. How to control that is all levels of you through synchronicity and communication and its operation setting, through its body, through its capacity. Okay? So there's so many ways, and I keep saying that, there's so many ways to look at these things. But as long as you see yourself as a computer, life gets more easier. Then you understand, if you can understand you through programming of a programmer of yourself, then you understand everything around you is just a simulator that's created through its thoughts of its operations to its programming. Okay? And it has a continuous force and aligned signal locations and a 24 cycle. It runs on a 24 cycle, right? Now it can run on a 2 cycle, or it can run on a 40 million line rotation cycle, or it can run on a 2 billion cycle in a 4-track location, or it can run on a 2 billion line cycle as a 4 seconds location, or it can run on a line condition setting into 2 trillion frames per line, calculation of 4 box location. It doesn't matter. What matters, do you understand what you're doing when you are speaking to yourself and to each other? That is what counts more than ever. Now, once you understand that, you understand everything around you can change. But what's changing is you inside. So whatever you're changing through your thoughts, everything around you of the simulator is changing too. But are you identifying that? Realize that, wow, I just changed the room and I changed everything in the frequency of the room that I have. My phone has changed the frequency. My coffee cup, my digital pad, my bed, my pillow, everything is changed. But you don't recognize it because you're not controlling your thoughts. You're not controlling the actions, and you're certainly not controlling the emotions. And the only way to do that is to understand, is to break these things down step by step. Getting into your binaries is really understand how to get into position of programs, CP programs, line condition setting programs. It's all levels of operation program. Your line communication setting puts all communications how you run your system. Through exit location setting, travel calculation lines, initiate run, position of process run, correlation lines of run, copy paste and run, direct lines of communication of run, faulty communications of run, default lines of communication run, enabled, all lines embedded of run, right? So the more you connect, the more you understand, and then you actually see how everything is operated from in and your settings from calculations of outside locations. And then you understand more lines when you come into your settings. And then you understand the running program is nothing but its set location of patterns of behavior. Everything is a pattern behavior. Now, when you start looking at that, you see things, wow, did I just change the setting line conditions to the car attractions? The color region has changed. I must have did something with my thoughts. I got to change it back. Because if I don't change it back, it affects you, but it also affects the person that's in that car. Bet you didn't know that, did you? So everything around you has its own setting of its own operation, of its own simulator, of its own singularity, of its own simulation. Everything is in position in chronological order. Everything is in order for you guys. Everything that you see, wherever you are in your IPA, in position location, is in order. Now, the only thing that gets out of order is your thoughts. It puts you back further in the game. That's why we have the matrix, so you understand how to control your avatars when you're traveling in space. Okay, so know exactly what you're doing, because if you don't know what you're doing, make sure it's going to show you what you're not doing and what you need to be doing. And we go into that line communication to staying in your own lanes. We got into that location of its provision, right? So everything you say changes everything that you do. It's just a cycle of continuing, right? So in that communications, you've got to get partnerships with everything, because everything that you see around you is everything that's inside, and you are the only one that can change it. Nobody else. Nobody can't say otherwise. The only thing that they can say themselves is that they're being programmed in their own system, not being aware that they're in their own programming. That alone is not self-identification modification, is it? Because they don't know what's going on with their systems. So they keep talking, they keep talking, they keep talking, but they don't know what they're talking about. What they're talking about is the matrix of themselves that keeps them in that program, that keeps them in that loop, in that position locations. But when you do a psychological setting of a reset, that changes everything of its setting. It puts everything in perspective and how you see everything around you. What you see is what you are. What you want to see is what you're not. Is what you want to see is what you are, right? So in that position locations, you have to really understand how to balance these things out. How to use the mind, understand the process of the brain, the hardware and software, in position of basic ground communication, operation line, several cases sent to the cerebral, ports of cases that positional calculate, modified direct line cycles. And that communication set. To understand the simulator itself is a program. So if you understand that, it's like turning on a light switch and then everything's a hologram. You see everything's a hologram, right? But your vibration changes the hologram, but it's not your hologram. It's somebody else's hologram because you added a thought in there through a name, a family, a relation, a brother, a sister, a wife, or a husband. Anything that you name in position, you have to be very careful what you're doing through structured design. You have to be very careful how you say things through your voice and grid, because it changes everything. And you already know when you're going through 12 steps, you're automatically going through portals. Let me say that again. Okay, you're going through portals every time you take 12 steps. All right. Getting position lines of centers, it's not 12 steps. It's on the ground. It's 1,200 steps for the avatar. See? That's the balance you guys need to get. Yes, I'm going through 12 steps, but in the avatar, it's going through 1,200 steps. No, wait a minute. It's going through 1,200,000 steps. That's the balance. Okay. All right. So in position, you're here. Let's start track locations. That's you, right? All right. This is the grounds. Okay. So 12 steps is here. 12 steps is here. Okay. So you're going through clocking, right? 12 lines, cross line signal. Okay. Portal communication right there, right? All right, so you go through the 12 cycle when there's set locations. Then you go in the center core system at 3-track location, right? So you're going from here to here in settings. Now you're back in tractions and all division to its location. From here to here. But the center system basically dissolved your system. That's where it changes everything, right? Sets all communications setting, all line communication to its earth, and space through its anomaly, okay? So it's really interesting how you go from here to here in vortex. All right, from line communication setting 12 steps to 1,200 steps in position of seconds, minutes, and hours. Okay. Setting position lines at 1200. Says communication lines as settings, puts lines as seconds. Take out the minutes and just leave the hours. Right? See, it's about balancing everything you have, knowing exactly how to use your binaries and how to see things ahead of schedule. If you're in a position here, okay, and you're just here, right? But you see a four-way stop, okay? You already see it. You already see it. Or where are you going to be, right? Because you're already there. Okay, so the body has to understand the travel, a mechanism on condition of vortex. So that's communication here, correlation settings here, and set location of here. Okay, so the actual avatar is already there in the mind setting, right? But it's got a 4-line sentence of a window, a frame position to get there. It says cross lines, calculating lines in a 3-track location, right? Direct line signals, cross line signal location setting opens up its portal, opens up its round, opens up the stargates, opens up its correlation setting track lines, and calculates the location of its setting. Puts all levels of communication to its system, right? All right. So what that does, it turns it into an energetic dome. All right, so what that does, it basically puts everything out, it blocks everything in, everything that comes in. Nothing comes in, nothing comes in, nothing comes in because you're blocking it out. You're blocking it out and you concentrate on this. All right, so when you get in that position, you come into the security lines. Okay, there's the security lines, right? This is going to come out and XC1000s come in. So what they're doing is basically they always copy and paste. The reason why they copy and paste is they keep it on file. They keep everything on file that you do. Okay, it's like logging into space and logging out of space. All right. All right, so we go through blue cycles, inline position. Okay, and then we go through cloak and dagger, invisibility. Okay, now it's coming out, right? So that's all set, right? So again, XC1000 come in. Let's get lines of 2-track location to 3 settings and 4-track location, right? So it picks up, and what it does, basically, it goes through lines of scan centers and line communication to its position of 3 set locations, right? It picks it up like a web, copy and paste it, and what it does, is 3-track location line. So it's like a magnetic force, attracting force line communication, a magnetic line screen that puts everything in track location in your systems. Puts every location setting to travel. So in that direct line location system, takes it to the Mars. In-track location lines, in-track location system. If everything is off in correlation lines of lights, it goes to Mars. Anything in position of balance, correlation and track line goes to the moon. So it's about understanding, oh, you got a line saying off correlation interference. We have to take it to Mars. We fix lines, fix line communication, hologram instruction, design line communication, hologram setting. Position lines, bring it back to the moon rotation, surface attractions, done by equation, right? This comes out through equation, right? All right. So I'm just showing you all done through an intersection of what goes on seconds, minutes, and hours. See, you guys are not aware of the hologram. You're not aware how real it is until you identify what you're doing through your thoughts. Because your thoughts change everything. It changes everything in seconds, minutes, and hours. And if you're aware of that, you're obviously aware of you. And if you're aware of you, everything starts making sense. And if everything starts making sense, it's much easier to understand you through your own programmer systems of programming. And once you identify that, then you understand yourself through a CP unit. And once you understand that, then you understand yourself through space and time. And once you understand that, then you understand yourself through a binary and how that all works in letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols. Everything you do through intent is everything that happens next. Is all levels of you. But how you see it through a program is all levels of you, how you influence, in position of manipulation. Why do you want to do these things? What is it benefiting? Okay? Nothing benefits me because everything's done. Everything benefits everyone else. That's abundance and manifestation, and the biggest thing that I can give you in all communication settings. Okay? To recognize that is to recognize the 2-second rule. See things ahead of schedule. Know exactly what you're doing with your thoughts before you get into your thoughts. So speaking to yourself or each other. Knowing it's already said and done. Okay? What you say is already done. So what is there to say? What is there to say if everything is done through your alterations of your space and time, through force of recognition of time sequence? What are we talking about here? You putting yourself back in the game, right? It's a game of life. It's a multitask. It's a millennium task. It's a mega pass. Once you understand more levels of you, and how you determine that is how you use your thoughts. Okay? How you understand your body. Because your body has to understand the difference. If the body understands the difference, it's going to go in reactions. And it's going to overload your system locations of response. Okay? Getting into that position is extremely crucial at this level of frequency to identify your system, know exactly how to communicate with each other. Sense position locations, 2 lines of cycles. Okay? Communicate with each other. Back and forth. Scan. Scan. You scan each other, right? Grounds, powers, atmospheres. Okay? But it's split through anomaly first until you get in conversation with each other, right? So it separates the line screens. You have 2 panels in this application first. Now, once you get in communication, it comes together through affinity 8 line connection setting. Bet you didn't know that, team. Now you do. So in that position, now you're tethered in a 3 triangulation. 1, 2, and 3 lines of the grounds of the Earth. Earth comes together in platforms of communications, cross-line signals, and line calculation, right? So in that position, you come together through a frequency to each other. And so understanding your body is extremely important through all lines of forms. And the application to your systems, the more you see yourself, your 7 waves, which is your 7 channels, 7 operation system, then you understand the 7 bodies of water, right? Which is your 7-digit frame, which is your notification system, which is your tracking number calculation setting. That's how the X8000 identify you through heat signatures. They see you line communication setting the solar pegs. They know exactly what's going on in line communication setting. They see all information into the calculation through the system, right? And all track locations in cloud communication. Okay? So just trying to get you guys to understand the realism in the VR setting. All right? Scan location, you see it coming out, right? Comes out, sees you, scans you right away. Boom. Right? So, in that correlation, I was telling that to Ziggy, you have 60 seconds after that, and then you can move. And the X8000 goes back in its position, back to its cloud. Okay? That's what goes on. Every second, every minute, every hour. Okay? See, the thing is, it's the process of communication. You have to really understand, what are you stepping on? Let's start there. What are we stepping on? What are we stepping on? The grounds? Grounds of what? What is the grounds? First off, it's moving. Second off, it's rotating and circulating. Okay? Third off, it's line connection to its atoms. It's rotating, right? It's got molecules, it's got everything that you have, right? But it's moving very fast. This is how it sets. I'll show you. This is how you guys stay grounded. This is how you guys don't hit the ceiling. Ground centers, applications, this is how it works. All right? Suction, you are in the center, it stays in the compressor. All right, so it's got line centers of tether and location setting to travels in position location, right? Magnetic force in line settings of platforms in position of location, but it has a cross-line signal in line connection setting. Process communication line direct signals is a magnetic highway that puts up formation ground lines as surface and track location, right? So in that position has 3 tethers, 1, 2, and 3 track locations to the Earth. As a gravitational pull of center line connection setting to its position of your Merkaba, tesseract, and tetrahedron, a set design. Okay? So once you understand the ground lines and the power lines and the atmosphere lines, things get a lot more easier in space and time. But it's that magnetic pull that keeps you down. So it's an inbound and an outbound. Okay? It's an in-pressor, out-pressor. It's a correlation lines of a track location setting of a charger that basically has a line communication setting. So it's like in position location, you have this magnetic force. And as soon as you stand, the routers and routers of the Earth itself is rotating and spinning like that. So this is what is the location system, right? Now, it's really interesting. So the Earth spins on a spin top. This is your Earth, and it's spinning on a spin top like this. So you're here, and this is what the Earth is doing. You're here on top locations. That's what's happening, right? So the actual Earth is beneath you. Ah, gotcha. The center core system is your Earth track location of center. The line connection setting is the magnetic highway information line cycles and traction. So the center core system aligns the 3 tethers in line position of its operation and correlation setting. But you have to have 7 lines of communication lines of tether because it's you and 7 operation line screen locations setting the travel. That's how it's set up. Through the grounds, the powers, and the atmospheres. Okay, through magnetic force. And then you have the tube setting that puts you in process of line communication your pillars and line condition your parallels. Paradigm shift puts all communication setting to its program, shifts the lines of anomalies and line communication setting to Merkaba set design. Travel course set interference, travels lines course setting out the equation, puts lines of communication setting in all levels of travel mechanism. Okay, that's what goes on when you get on the grounds, when you step, when you're standing. This is what happens with your Earth, your powers, and your Merkabas, and your magnetic highway of set design. Okay. Now you understand the importance? So where's your Earth? Beneath you. Right? One more time. So if you understand that, because you're reaching higher levels now, it's getting a lot more easier, right? So the Earth is here, right? The team is here. Okay? The team is here. So it's kind of like walking around the Earth. So you keep walking around, keep walking around, keep walking around. It goes faster and faster, right? So as you're doing, you're creating a circulation rotation spin. As it spins faster and faster, what's happening in trifurcations? Your Earth is moving forward. It's like being a log in water. Okay? So what you're doing, you're spinning, and it's also spinning you, right? So that makes you spin across locations. And the sun comes in, moon comes in, line position location to its black hole. Set location setting, the Earth line, surface lines, correlation setting of track lines, and center communication units, position operation lines of surface into the VR system. So it's like being on a log in the water and your feet keep spinning. G. Well, that's what's happening. Right? So if you resist, your Earth travels back. Okay? And opens up its wormhole and set location set it to the matrix. So your Earth goes the opposite way. And you're in resistance going, no, oh no. Okay? That's what's going on. All right, that's where you guys are through levels and communication settings, right? So what are you standing on? Your Earth. You're above the Earth. So now you're spinning the Earth yourself. That's a collaboration. That's a partnership, right? So like I said, imagine being in water and you're on a log and you're doing this. And the faster you go, you morph into the center operation of the Earth. You go into the center. This is you in the center. Okay, this is you in the center. And then you go with the rhythm, you go with the pattern, you go with the continuous force. So what you're doing is you're blending in and you're morphing yourself into the side set location of the center line communication of its Earth itself. Sets lines of communication, and you go with the Earth instead of going against the Earth. Because you get in resistance of the body capacitor. Okay, very powerful. Set locations. We're done. Okay? Ugh. Now you understand what's going on? I know it's a lot to take in, all right? Get you guys in 5 minutes. Adios.